Everybody, and welcome back to more political chatter. In this video, we will be talking about just how badly the Democrats are looking at the 2024 Senate races as of right now. It is not looking good for the Democrats right now, and they have a very small chance of retaining control of the U.S. Senate. Currently, of course, after the 2022 midterm elections, the setup of Democrat versus Republican was 51 to 49, with two independents at this time caucusing with the Democrats. So they flipped the state of Pennsylvania in 2022. They held Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, the critical ones, and with that flip in Pennsylvania, they turned the 50-50 Senate into a 41 to 49 Senate with the Democrats up. So they haven't, gotten or been able to do too much since then, especially with a Republican-controlled House. But looking at 2024, it might get even worse because they are definitely not expanding that majority, and they are really almost certainly at this point going to lose it. So there are a few critical Senate seats in 2024. I'm not saying these are going Republican, I'm just highlighting them here. Ohio and Montana are the two main ones. Here we have two incumbent Democratic senators who are fighting for re-election. I'll actually mark them blue since they're Democratic incumbents. The thing about 2022, Democrats were able to hold on to all of their seats and flip Pennsylvania. But the thing about 2022 was that you didn't have Democratic incumbents in a safe red state like Montana, or a likely Republican state like Ohio. I mean, I don't have the 2020 results up here, but Trump won Montana in 2020 by 16.5%, and he won Ohio by 8%. And in 2024, Trump will likely expand on those victories, and on that same ballot, there will be Democrats trying to fight for their reelection chances. But it's a very rare case where you have let's say Montana goes to Trump by 18%. They vote for the president, the Republican president by 18%, and then they vote for the Democratic senator. That's 18 at least percent cross splitting. It is very rare, especially in such partisan times like this. Now, gubernatorial elections are one thing. I mean, in 2022, Phil Scott won. He's a Republican governor of Vermont, and he won by some 70 percentage points. And Peter Welch on that same ballot won by some 60%. So, Peter Welch was running for Senate. So, it's one thing to say people cross split their ballots along party lines for gubernatorial elections, meaning Democrats will vote for Republicans in the gubernatorial election, but it is much, much, much different for Senate races. I mean, these are federal races. It decides the balance of power in the U.S. Senate. I mean, you want your party to have control of Congress, right? It is much different when it comes to governor elections. There is no balance of power in Congress for governor elections. It doesn't really matter with anything nationally. Senate and House elections, they pass much more important laws, and it's, which party controls the chambers of Congress is much more important than, which party controls a governor's mansion in one certain state, right? So, voters are very partisan on presidential and Senate races, so it will be extremely hard for Democrats to defend these two seats, Montana and Ohio. In Ohio, we have Sherrod Brown running for re-election. He is fairly popular. I mean, both are popular. What's good for Sherrod Brown and the Democrat Jon Tester in Montana is that both of them are very popular. They're likable guys. They are seen as more working class, not working class, but more populist, fighting for the working class type of politicians, which is very rare for Democrats these days. I mean, Jon Tester, both of these guys, but I know Jon Tester consistently ranks as one of the most popular senators in the country, and that is in a red state. That's in the state of Montana. He beats Democrats representing safe Democratic states. So that will be tough for Democrats to retain both seats. And then they would also have to, Ruben Gallego, a U.S. representative, would have to beat Kerry Lake in the state of Arizona. I think he is right now. I think that he will as of right now, but it will be pretty close, but they have to put money into that. Jackie Rosen in Nevada, the incumbent, has to defend her seat. There, they have Tammy Baldwin in Wisconsin, who's got to defend her seat. But that will be pretty easy considering the kind of not presumptive, but pretty much presumptive Republican nominee. He appears to be a very weak candidate. Elisa Slotkin, a U.S. representative, is running to fill Debbie Stabenow's seat. She is most likely to be the Democratic nominee. That will be a pretty tough race. And then they have to defend Bob Casey in Pennsylvania. So you've got 7 key critical swing states that the Democrats will have to defend. They currently hold on to these seats, and this isn't a matter like in 2022 of where they can gain a seat. No, this is if they can hang on to all of these 7 seats because, it's currently 51 to 49. Well, Republicans have a 99% chance of picking up the state of West Virginia. Democrat Joe Manchin, who represents the state, is retiring this year. He is not running again. And, with no special, major, anything crazy for the Democratic nominee, Jim Justice, the extremely popular governor, is sure to pick up this seat. So that would put Democrats at 50-50, just filling in this map. Let's assume the Democrats win the states that they typically do: Massachusetts, Vermont, Maine, Maryland. Even though Larry Hogan is running as a Republican, that probably won't be close. Virginia is likely to still go to them. Let's assume, and New Mexico. Let's assume Republicans win the states that they usually do by a lot. Mississippi, Tennessee, Indiana. Let's assume that Ted Cruz and Rick Scott hang on in Texas and Florida. And with Democrats hanging on to those 7 critical seats that they currently control, that would put Democrats at a 50-50 matchup. Now, obviously this is a tie, and to have control in a 50-50 balance of power, for the Democrats to have control, they would have to have the vice presidency. So that would mean that if they do somehow win Montana and Ohio and all of the other states, which is absolutely their max performance, their max result, the best possible result that they can hope for in the Senate, that means that to have a majority in the Senate, they would still have to win the presidency, which right now is looking like they won't. Polymarket people, normal everyday people, putting their money, actual money, into who they think will be the next president. I mean, people are believing this stuff when they put their money into it. And 53% say that Donald Trump will be the next president. Joe Biden at 32%. Michelle Obama at 7%. That's insane that she's at 7%. I could see like 2 or 3%, but 7% is absurd. Gavin Newsom at 5%, RFK Jr. at 2%, Kamala Harris at 2%. So, it is unlikely that Biden wins a second term, and very likely that Trump wins in 2024. So, with whoever Trump's vice president may be, whether that be Elise Stefanik, Tim Scott, Kristi Noem, Vivek Ramaswamy, whoever, Republicans would have control, even if Democrats win Montana and Ohio. So, for Democrats to have control of the Senate, they would have to win. Jon Tester and Sherrod Brown would have to hang on in Ohio and Montana, 2 very Republican states. That is extremely unlikely that both of them win. They would also have to defend their seats in Nevada, Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. They probably are able to do that. But still, it is definitely in the realm of possibility that Republicans win one of those seats, that they flip one of those seats, and then it's absolutely over. On top of that, they would have to win the presidency, with Joe Biden's current 32% of winning again in 2024, according to people betting on this. Biden would still have to, or the Democrats would still have to carry the presidency to somehow have Senate control. So the point is, it's extremely unlikely. Montana probably isn't going to Jon Tester. Jon Tester is probably losing, and Republicans are probably flipping that seat. So they have a little chance of making it 50-50 in the Senate, and they maybe have an even smaller chance of winning the presidency. So there basically is an extremely small chance that Democrats could possibly keep the Senate in 2024, and it's probably in Republican hands. So, looking at Montana, I know we kind of went over this, but polling is a little mixed. I mean, I remember though, Steve Bullock, the Democrat running for Senate in 2020, was leading by like 8%, and he ended up losing by like 10 by a lot. So polling does typically favor Democrats here, but Jon Tester, so Tim Sheehy is likely to be the Republican nominee. Tester led by 4 against him in one poll, and then in a separate poll, Sheehy led by 4. So we really don't know how this race will go. Matt Rosendale's probably not going to be the Republican nominee, but I currently have Tim Sheehy winning that race. In Ohio, Sherrod Brown does lead every poll, and that is why I do think that Sherrod Brown is currently winning this Ohio Senate seat, but that one will be close. But Sherrod Brown can definitely run a good campaign. But I mean, it really is just because Bernie Moreno is likely to be the Republican nominee. He is very extreme, very conservative, very far right, and isn't that electable. Even though Ohio is a very pro-Trump state, Trump won it by 9 in 2016 and then 8 in 2020, only a 1-point shift to the right. Bernie Moreno is very more extreme. Then Donald Trump, and Sherrod Brown can run a much better campaign than Biden would, be capable of running. So it's almost impossible at this point if for the Democrats to win the Senate in 2024. I would be absolutely shocked if they somehow do. So thank you all for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you all later.